Welcome back to Knocking to 10. I'm John DiLoretto, founder of Knock2. On today's podcast, we interview the brightest minds in go-to-market. Today, we're joined by Chris Balestras, the principal and co-founder of Vibe Scaling. Chris, great to have you with us today. And a special note, today we're actually filming at 28th and Park, the premier content studio that helps founders, investors, and builders in the New York City ecosystem create high-quality content that helps fuel their brand, win over customers, and ultimately drive thought leadership in the community. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Of course, pumped to be here. Thanks for having me, John.
So, Chris, you and I actually have a bunch in common. Aside from the golf shirts and the charming good looks, you also came from a non-traditional background before getting into go-to-market. Tell us a little bit about like who you are, your background, and what you were doing before you got into what I would call modern go-to-market today.
Yeah, for sure. I've done a couple of back and forths between tech go-to-market and professional services. Started as a CPA, first 2 years, Big Four accounting. And yeah, I mean, it's like, that's wasn't the best career fit for me as someone who's an extrovert. And I remember going to my partner one day being like, how do I do what you do? They said, you have to probably wait 15 years. And I said, I want to do it today. So I did a 180 from accounting to tech sales.
Okay.
Landed at Salesforce, where I was here in New York for almost about 5 years. BDR, SMB, rep, all the way through enterprise sales. Knew that I didn't want to work at a big company anymore. So I did what felt like a startup at the time, moved to a company called Celonis, process automation tool in 2021 in enterprise sales, Series C company. Went there for a year, and first person in my family to go to college. So I always had a goal of going to business school.
Yeah.
Went to Columbia here and had a great 2 years where I wanted to, I was at Salesforce, then Celonis, wanted to start my own thing and actually go from really 0 to 1. Started a dating app called Vance, got that to a couple of thousand per month. I know, big numbers, but think of it like Talkspace or BetterHelp for dating.
Yeah.
So connecting singles in cities with dating coaches and relationship coaches via text and Zoom.
Cool.
That definitely caught the startup bug, but it was still in the SaaS era. This is still pre-ChatGPT.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to potentially join tech after business school, but didn't find that company I loved. So did what most business school students do, and I went into strategy consulting.
Okay.
Was at Oliver Wyman for a great year in their private equity group, but I accepted my role a month before ChatGPT launches. I'm at Oliver Wyman, and the entire time I'm there, I am like, oh my God, this is about to completely change my job and everything. And I fell in love back with software, specifically AI. So that brings me to then leaving Oliver Wyman to join Metronome. And was the fourth go-to-market hire there, where not only was I selling, but also spinning up tools like Clay and Common Room. Was there a year, launched a blog called GTM, which combined go-to-market AI and startups. And it's been fast growing, so much so that I got pulled into a mentor of mine called Kalen Desai to want to start what's now Vibe Scaling, which we'll get into a little bit more, and I'll wrap this up, is a couple pillars to it, but really working with seed through Series B companies to infuse AI and go-to-market. And it's been awesome.
Okay, so graduate college, you're a CPA, you do that for a few years, then you work in a number of different startups, you get into Columbia Business School, which is like one of the hardest business schools to get into. You go and you get a degree that allows you to go out and be a consultant at a top tier consultancy. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so you pass on like a very difficult opportunity to get into Oliver Wyman and decide to go back and work at early stage startups again. What was going through your head that you were like, I'm going to put aside an incredible salary and career progression, and I'm going to go work at an early stage startup?
I think I already had that muscle built out slightly by doing my own startup in business school. So it wasn't as scary to then go to a Series B company at the time.
So you felt that pull bringing you back in. So you had kind of experimented in school, you took that job, and the whole time you're like, this doesn't feel right. I want to be back in.
Yeah, I think that there was so much, and I was one of the students that, or it's not students, but like consultants that actually did tech before consulting. Typically, you see it similar to your background where you start in the finance or consulting background, then you go into tech. I knew that I had there's more energy for me, and I knew that I wanted to do it at an earlier stage. So, and I wanted to do it in AI. So, kind of had that. It's just like a gut feeling sort of thing.
What would you say? What do you think are some of the, skill sets when you think about maybe of like first principles though that you've been able to carry over from consulting that brings a certain mindset when you apply it, when you think about kind of go to market and systems thinking? Is there anything in particular that you kind of look back upon about this was foundational or helpful in my journey?
Yeah, it's funny. It's so much of like you almost try to unlearn the things that you learn in consulting.
Okay.
But I would say if I had to think of a couple of things to take away, it's just like very structured thinking and just that sort of professionalism. Client services, I mean, it's what we do at Vibe Scaling.
Yeah.
It's very much still a client services business. It's, making sure that you structure a conversation well, you send follow-up notes. You get, it's actually probably a blessing and a curse of, I feel the need to always get back to people very fast, which probably spikes up anxiety at times, and it's not super healthy, but it can make you a better, if you're running an advisory firm.
Sure.
And I do appreciate that. I'm sure it's something that maybe you would potentially say from your time in finance. But.
Yeah, very cool. I don't know if you remember how we met. Do you remember it all? I looked it up last night. So you as one should do, particularly if you're looking to transition from finance or consulting into a startup. So Chris sent me like a DM in LinkedIn that essentially just said like, "Hey John, looks cool you're building. Saw you also transition from like, finance or consulting into startups. Would you want to get a coffee?" And like immediately, I think we had a few mutual connections that you went to Columbia with. I think like Ross Borkland, maybe a few folks.
Yep. Yeah.
Always down to take those coffees and help people that are making that transition from one stage to the next. But what is funny is I actually think I gave you the wrong advice and you completely proved me wrong. I think from our meeting, I said, Chris, if you're really interested in making this transition, you might have an easier time jumping into like a strategic finance role. So for me, I kind of, for whatever reason, had forgot you had had all this incredible experience at Salesforce. I was thinking through your experience of working at consultancy, and I remember being like, Chris, there's a lot of startups that could probably use your, your sophistication and your systems thinking as it relates to kind of finance and business building. And I think I told you to look for those roles. You probably told me to go F off, and I'm pretty sure you did the complete opposite. If I recall correctly, you actually went and did a incredibly early stage like sales consulting role with Fern. Is that right? Was that yours?
Yeah.
So our good friend Danny Sheridan from Fern, which is an incredible business that he's been building. But tell us a little bit about kind of really quickly what you did there, and maybe that'll help lead us into some of the learnings we're going to get to later.
Yeah, that was so actually I'll even add some more color to how we met was due to Penguin, the company that you were founding at the time.
Yep.
It was a technology that was I was on the website because I was looking through Crunchbase of companies that like just went through YC, maybe had some sort of traction.
Yeah.
And I hit the website and and I was like, the main reason why I reached out was less so of anything other than I wanted to know how that was actually done
on our site.
Yeah. So, and I thought that was really impressive. As a former sales professional, I was like, wait a second, this is like kind of insane. So part of those conversations, it was when I was at Oliver Wyman, and I was trying to explore back in the early stage space. And I wasn't really getting a ton of looks for full-time roles.
Yep.
I almost had this sort of big company smell to me again.
Yep, exactly.
And it was a lot harder for me. So I realized, okay, let me network with some of these founders like Danny at Fern to say, I'm on the beach sometimes for a week. Let me come in and do a sprint for you. And it'll allow me to get some of these at bats that I look a little bit less scary for that role. So Danny, and that experience was great. Awesome. I actually texted him last week.
Yeah.
I think he's actually been to your pickleball. Yeah. It's funny how the small world works. And then, that's how we met. So
they're killing it. I think this raised a very large, healthy round.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So while you're doing that, you also start at the time a newsletter that was kind of bringing together your thoughts about what it's like to have an MBA and what you learn getting your MBA with this idea of sort of modern go-to-market. And you call it Go-to-Market MBA. Is that right? So you start a newsletter on Substack. And at the time, this is just sort of like your writings and your learnings. So you're kind of like recounting what you've learned as you go through this process. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how this went from like, you almost building in the bedroom, kind of writing this thing, to becoming this full-blown like media company that you run today.
Yeah. So still early innings with it all, but right after Fern, I had a couple of these other advisory engagements, knew I wanted to get back into this, but was looking for the right company. Landed at Metrum a couple months later, and was working there for a few months. And Julian, who's now at Windsurf, he was the second AE that was hired at Metrum. We really bonded, I think, mainly because, maybe being both MBAs or something on the sales team, not many of us out there. And one day I kind of just woke up and I was like, wanted to write again. I had an old blog called Yuppie Junk
Okay.
that was more of a personal sort of like getting the deep, dark thoughts out of my brain and onto something. It wasn't like my professional blog. So, but I really liked writing. So I went to him and I said, hey, I have a really good name for us. Let's just call it GTMBA. He's like, dude, I've been wanting to blog for a while. It's like crazy that you brought this up because I was just thinking about this. So we launched that late 2024. And what GTMBA is and what we launched it as is this intersection between go-to-market, AI, and startups.
Yeah.
It's really two pillars to it. And like Julian, who's an AE now at Windsurf, I'm sure he's got a lot of stories that he would like to tell after the crazy last couple of weeks.
Sure.
But it's selling at a startup, how it differs from big company. It's just like selling around feature gaps and really just narratives around different sales topics that are in our head, which I'm sure we might discuss later. But
yeah.
And then it's also using tools like Clay to create leverage in a go-to-market organization with a lean team. So yeah, and now we're leveraging this. I mean, we have quite a bunch of subs now, and when we just threw our first event with 100 AI operators in SF last week, we're doing another one in SF next month, and then also one in New York next month with Clay.
Cool. And what's it going to be called in the New York event next month?
It's with Clay, just GTM plus AI, just like selling in the AI era.
Okay.
So,
and who's that a good fit for? Who would be like a great person to sign up for this?
there's a few different folks. I would say folks that are at early and growth stage AI companies.
Okay.
People who maybe have been on the sidelines in the SaaS company for 4 years that want to break in. A lot of these are just more like go-to-market enthusiasts too. So your AEs, your BDRs, your sales leaders, maybe even some go-to-market engineers.
Okay. And what can guests expect when they show up? Are they going to learn some things? Is it going to be a panel? How is the event going to go on?
Yeah, event will be with 4 or 5 panelists. We right now for this event have like Anthropic, OpenAI, but then we also have companies like Attention that are a lot earlier stage because we wanted to get some different perspectives. And Clay will be on that as well. So topics just around like how are you presenting ROI in these deals compared to SaaS? How are you making sure you qualify out the window shoppers from real buyers and like, you know, how to choose the right company, stuff like that.
So tell me a little bit about like what has come from this project of sort of building community and writing. So, you know, obviously you started really as a bit of a personal project, teamed up with a guy. What are some of the opportunities and things that have come from this? And, you know, maybe with some advice you'd share with other folks who are sort of early stage building community, building a network, et cetera.
Yeah, so I would say there's probably 2 ways I'd answer it. First is writing the blog was the engine that started all of the opportunity for us. So
blogging is not dead by any means.
Blogging is not dead. No, it's definitely more crowded, but it's hard to do. So I think with that comes just less people who are maybe that blog a couple articles, but it's the you hear this all the time on different podcasts and people saying like, it's just all about consistency. It's true. You're going to get feedback if it's going well. And from the early, like, you know, initially it was my wife and Julian's wife and our moms probably that were viewing it. And then a few friends do it, they pass it along and a compounding mechanism kicks in, which is inspiring, but it also then starts to have opportunity to present itself to you. Kaylin, who was a mentor of mine, was reading the blog, saw how we were using Clay and how I was writing about it. And I could have never thought that 6 months after it, I'd be forming, you know, my own thing. I always was going down the path of a founding AE or the 10th AE at Anthropic or whatever that looked like. So one is just like the blog created a lot of opportunity. And then 2 is like the opportunities that have probably surprised me the most. A lot of VCs actually have reached out. And I think for 2 reasons. One is VCs wanting to provide value to their portfolio companies. They always bring up go-to-market because most VCs aren't technical probably enough to go on the engineering side. So they're trying to create their own community and events. So we've gotten reached out to by, you know, some of the top VCs, and we're planning on doing actually co-events with VCs. I didn't really see that coming down the road. And then I would say like second is just how interested people are in go-to-market. It's funny, like, you know, maybe you saw us at Villanova. I certainly saw it at Columbia where hey, you go into banking and consulting and like people don't say they want to go into sales, yet we start this blog and we post about how we think smart people should go into sales. And then we have people that reach out and say, hey, you know, it's funny you wrote about that. I actually I would love to get into sales, but like, I didn't even think it was a path. And then, you know, you see these careers at like some of the most brilliant people working at these AI companies. And I think that it's becoming a little bit more known that sales is an awesome career.
Yeah, I would agree. Can I ask you a personal question?
Throw it out at
Do
me.
you get offended when people unsubscribe? Take it personally?
No, no, I unsubscribe myself to different blogs and no, it's true. I try to not look at. I looked at it in the beginning, and then I was just like,
would you share what subscriber numbers you're at this point? Where are you at so far?
Yeah, I've rounded up to 1,500, but it's like 1,455.
Like a year ago, roughly.
The holidays, so it was right around Christmas.
So less than a year in, already past 1,000 subscribers. Churning out content weekly, monthly. What's sort of the cadence?
We hold ourselves to once a week.
Cool. Where can people find it? Is it
Beehive?
Beehive. Okay. It's go to MBA, GTMBA. Is that right?
It's gtmba.ai.
Cool.
And it's through Beehive, but we have our own page there. You'll see maybe some pictures and videos from the event we threw in SF and all that.
Awesome. Okay. So incredible backstory, joined some early stage companies coming out. You start writing this blog, opens a ton of doors, as you just mentioned, connects you with Kalen. Kalen, tell me a little bit about kind of Kalen, his background, and what was the idea behind Vibe Scaling and why you guys partnered up?
So Kalen was the founding AE at Box and Dropbox.
Okay.
From 2007 to 2015.
Two different companies, Box and Dropbox.
The competitors, actually, which makes it a little bit more spicy. Box, a little bit more of did really well in the enterprise space. Dropbox, very famous for one of the first PLG darlings in the early 2010s. And a really amazing go-to-market team. When you think of the mafias, this is an article that I would love to write one day, is the mafias of go-to-market, like it was Dropbox from 2010 to 2015. And you look at a lot of the Anthropic, OpenAI leadership, a lot of what was the Stripe leadership. They have ties to and Plaid, all that, like the ties to Dropbox. Cool. So Kalen developed a couple of wins really early in his career, as well as that network, and was an advisor at like a lot of these other companies. And the last few years has actually went out of the operator role and more in the fractional. I guess he's still an operator, but like fractionally. And was dropping in checks. So really, it was a one-man show, just him. And I saw that, and I said, "This is the career that I want." And attached reach out to him and was just like, "Hey, this is how I'm thinking about things. Can I get feedback?" We developed a good relationship. So
once again, shooting in the DMs, sending a message on LinkedIn, I imagine,
totally
pitching and opportunities that have come from just reaching out, being direct.
And I try to. I'm not a big fan of like saying like pick your brain. I don't know, kind of like nails on the chalkboard a little bit. But at one point I used to say it, but then came in more with like, hey, this is, presenting what I've already done, how I'm thinking about things, and asking for feedback.
Very specific question. I want feedback on X.
And I think he respected that I came to him saying, okay, here's the work I've already done. There's some maybe from consulting that like actually
show up with the work.
Totally. Like, hey, this is where rather than just be like, can you help? Like, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm stuck. I feel like you would have good POV. And we developed a good relationship for over the last couple of years, connecting once a quarter of just what's been working. And then he started following the blog, and then, and he's got a really great network. SF base grew up there. I'm more in New York. So that's what makes it cool too, is we can kind of, be in different areas.
And so you guys use the term vibe scaling. So vibe coding is like the in vogue term, but is more along the lines of like just kind of having fun and making things happen without maybe a lot of intentionality. Obviously what you guys do is very different. Tell me a little bit about kind of the name, why, and what it means when you come in and work with early stage companies.
Yeah, it's funny. There's Kalen always screenshots texts of people say, oh, it's a cool name. We were a little bit torn on the name, which really shouldn't matter at the end of the day. But like, I don't know. It's like an hour we were like discussing it, and I wanted it to be more like Slope or something that was like very clean cut, but extremely boring. And that's probably what makes us work well together is, we come with different ideas. And he was like, hey, let's go on the back of like vibe coding, vibe marketing, whatever, the vibe scaling. And it used to be T2. His one-man job was T2D3. And we realized, wow, like Cursor's going 0 to 500 million in 18 months. That's probably an outdated statistic, even though that's still impressive growth rates. So we rebranded from that. I joined along. And what vibe scaling is it really has evolved even in the first 5 months. There's 4 pillars of vibe scaling. So the first is go-to-market advisory, which honestly, that's Kalen doing. fractional head of sales, fractional CRO work.
Okay.
Then there's the second pillar, which is go-to-market engineering. So think of like the first pillar as 0 to 15 customers.
Yep.
The second pillar, go-to-market engineering, let's get you from 15 to 50, and you're using tools
Is
like
that the right time when businesses should start be thinking about systems thinking? Like when does that come into play? You say 15 customers. Does that mean they have product market fit? Does that mean they have a hunch as to who their ICP is? Like, where do you think customers are typically at that stage?
Yeah, it all varies. I did 15 because maybe just some recent engagement bias, but then we're working with a PLG company that has a lot more of those. And it's more of like, how do we go, just have them spend more with us.
Okay. But what are some other like characteristics of companies at that stage? Do they have a sales team? Is it founders? What does it typically look like?
Yeah, they're hiring us because they're not ready for a full-blown sales team. So they haven't seen repeatability yet. And it would almost be bad to hire a founding AE just yet.
Okay.
You want to bridge the gap with somebody who has maybe seen the motion, but can help to brute force / experiment. I would say like that bridge from pre-seed to, let's say, A.
Yep.
Usually don't recommend hiring a full-time founding AE, and certainly not a leader yet. But what you'll do is there's plenty of people like Kaylin who do that.
Cool.
And you'll do that because you want to actually see what is working,
Yep.
and you don't need someone full-time to necessarily do that yet.
Cool.
So.
Okay. All right, quickly, the other three pillars or two other pillars, I just want to make sure we get to them before we move on, of vibe scaling are.
Yeah, so those first two, then what happens is when we get them to that 50 customer, let's say, they then say, hey, thanks for your help. We're going to fire you guys, and we want to hire your replacements. Can you help us hire that full-time? So we've been getting a ton of pull on the recruiting side for founding AEs, founding BDRs, teams. And then the fourth pillar is like this content and community. So it's think of it like, GTMBA, and then also these events that I mentioned that we're hosting in SF in New York with like, top go-to-market talent.
Cool. So it sounds like you're almost like, I don't know, parents or professors. You help kind of shepherd them, get them through elementary school, go up through high school, and then you like wave goodbye as they go off to college and, help them kind of go through their whole journey. But very cool. So you're really helping companies go from their early stages all the way up to the point where they're ready to take off on their own, maybe get them to 10,000 feet to cruising altitude, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So we're going to jump back to something from the go-to-market or GTMBA. Sorry, keep tripping over myself there. You put out a really cool article last week about the Mount Rushmore of go-to-market plays, which I love because like it's such an iconic image to me. So Mount Rushmore has 4 presidents on it. You've put together 4 go-to-market plays. What are these 4 go-to-market plays?
Yeah. So I use Mount Rushmore. I probably overuse it for just like when I want to say, hey, my top 4 things. So with go-to-market engineering, there's 4 plays that have come up that we are consistently seeing. I can't predict wins or pipe. It's like, are people responding to us positively? That is like the metric that I think that all these companies should go with. Could be like, hey, this is cool, but not right now.
Okay.
So
in these plays, you would encourage these for what? Any B2B software company? Is it when they're kind of in the startup phase? Where when you think about these plays, who is the ideal customer that should be running these?
Yeah, I think of it like pre-seed, seed, and then of course, once a company has enough traction, these will work up market.
So if you're a venture-backed startup, you're anywhere between pre-seed and maybe Series C. These 4 plays pretty much work across the board.
Yeah, I'll actually swap one of them out from the article to make it a little bit more.
5 plays? Is there?
Or we can just add 4. One of them's GitHub related. That's why, because it's like dev tools.
So to talk us through. So list out what are the 4 or 5 plays that every startup founder or sales leader should be thinking about.
So definitely one is web analytics, web clicks to auto messaging.
Okay. So web visits or website visitors is number 1. What's the second one?
Competitive followers scrape on LinkedIn.
Okay, so looking at who follows your competitors' LinkedIn profiles.
Yep, and then getting
personal or company profiles.
That would be company.
Company profiles.
Okay. Yeah.
What is play number 3?
Play number 3 is warm intros, but systemizing.
Systemized intros. Okay, and number 4.
That is the GitHub scrape, but that's not going to be relevant for any company outside of or dev tools. So I would say the one that we are now testing a lot more and getting some good hits is they just recently joined a company. So your ICP of what you sell to is 3 to 6 months new at that company, and they want to make a name for themselves, so there'll be higher chance of them taking a meeting.
Okay,
so
cool. So new hires.
Yeah.
Okay, so website visitors, which we know well at Knock 2. So people land on your website, identifying
Exactly
them,
what you guys
and
do,
then
yeah.
essentially, the next day within that, first few days afterwards, starting a real conversation based on kind of the content that they're browsing and engaging with. So that would be number one.
Yeah.
Number two is looking at LinkedIn, looking at who is following your competitors as people who are interested in your space and your market. Number three is looking for job changes, recent hires. So somebody becomes a new marketing leader, a new sales leader at a company. They're looking to make an impact early. They've got budget, most likely. That's a great opportunity. And the fourth was GitHub. Is that right? And then you had a warm intros one as well.
Yeah.
So
GitHub and then a warm intro. So that's almost
Okay.
5.
Let's kind of break these down. So what is so effective about website visitors? Why do you think that is like a top play that everybody should be running?
Yeah. So when you think of the C of a funnel,
Yep.
and it's like who's interested in somebody hitting your website. Now there's going to be people who are VCs hitting your website and not relevant. This is stuff that you can enrich out in Clay.
Yeah.
But anyone that's an ICP that is hitting your website, I at least want a serendipitous touch to them to kind of, get all those leads that are maybe floating out there. At least just to be like, hey, I'm here to be a thought partner.
Yep.
There's just something we tested, and it's like the response rates have been really great. And then the more people that respond to you, the more that will eventually book a meeting with you, whether it's like then or 3 months down the road.
What is there a particular framework that you kind of recommend? Say it's like a classical B2B software company. Somebody hits their website. How would you advise them to like start that engagement?
So the article you're referring to 2 weeks ago or a few weeks ago, we did that one as a broad one. So the 4 plays that are working. This week we launched with Brendan Short, who's another like creator in the space. Deep dives on these exact plays. So if you go to GTMBA,
okay, so kind of break it down.
It's about 2,000 words, screenshots of how to do it. But TLDR is like you use a tool like Knock 2, you get a webhook that runs into Clay, you run enrichments, and then you spit it out to a tool like Hey,
so you're like emailing these folks or a LinkedIn DM. Okay, so essentially you're taking it and it's run through the sales team is kind of what you recommend, or the founders or whatever it might be.
I actually think that it's why I like working with pre-seed, seed, and A is because I can just jump in the founders LinkedIn and people want to talk to founders.
Yeah. So the founder LinkedIn methodology actually is like much higher response rates than just, kind of like a early stage sales rep.
I mean, when I put my hat on of a former AE, to me, it's a cheat code. It's like nobody used to answer me as an AE, and I already see how much higher propensity there is if you're a founder.
Cool. Okay. Let's jump into one more if you're open to it. Job changes, GitHub. What you want to pick one more and just give a little bit of like a little playbook on it and why it works well?
Yeah, I actually do the second one. So it's the company LinkedIn follower scrape.
Okay.
So if somebody has consciously said, I want to follow competitor A, get all their news, get spam with it, chances are that, that's enough of a signal for me to then say, let's blast out a bunch of messages. Now, sometimes they have tens of thousands of people that are following. So the only way to do this is via email because of LinkedIn's restrictions. So we'll scrape that using a tool. It's like a tool called Boomerang. It's Scrapely. They get you a CSV. You put that into Clay. You clean it up. You enrich. You have their LinkedIn profiles so you can easily get their emails. Once you have their emails, you're using like the messaging framework in a tool like Instantly or some other email tool. That is like, when you think of the framework of an email, 4 sentences and 4 lines. So it's like, hey, saw that you follow X. And
okay, so you do address it.
Totally. Yeah. Saw that you follow X and curious if this problem that we typically hear resonates with you. Okay. Second sentence is the problem. Third sentence is the world in which your product enables without mentioning your product. And fourth is, there's a lot of like CTAs that you can do. Is like, cool if I send over a quick POV of how we've seen, and then you name a couple of customers that are social proof.
Cool. So acknowledge that they follow and have an interest in this, point out the fact that common pain points of people that do are X, explain the value, don't lead with features, don't even talk about the company, offer to send something that may be helpful in that space, then tie some social proof at the end. That's like a brilliant framework.
I think that's good for the first email and
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. All right, so let's just look ahead for a little bit. Obviously, you've been diving deep. You talk with some real experts in the space. You said you just did a big collab with Brendan, and you're putting out a long form piece either this week or next.
We're doing a bunch of together, like a series almost. So yeah.
So you probably have a pretty good sense as to like where go-to-market is going. If you're kind of peering around the corner, give us a little sense as to like where things are going, where the space is evolving to. You know, if you are a founder today, maybe it's like a Series B, Series C company. What are some of the things you need to be thinking about that are sort of sneaking up behind you and are really going to change the trajectory of go-to-market in the next couple months?
I mean, I have broader thoughts on how I think the dynamics of how you hire a team will change and best practice. And then also just like from a tools perspective, I think from a tools perspective, the best teams right now are connecting signals with action. So, are you using like a tool like Knock2 to like run that webhook and then like actually do something with it? Because what I'm seeing is companies are buying Common Room or they're buying a tool like, these tools, but then they just sit in Slack. People are really busy and you need to actually like
Action it.
get out that and actually do it. Otherwise it's like paralysis analysis on steroids.
Yep. 100%.
So that's like from the best teams are figuring that out. And it's why companies like, even Unify are doing really well right now. It's because they're connecting signals with action.
Yep.
The second though is where it's changing is the best teams and the ones that we really get excited to even recruit for. Think of it like I want my current team to be really successful before we hire more people. Yep. I think the old way of doing things was you'd have somebody who was in a spreadsheet that would say salespeople create demand. Salespeople absolutely do not create demand, even though salespeople should always be prospecting.
Yep.
It's a capacity issue if your reps have empty calendars. Yep. And I think the best teams are, and this goes back to what we're seeing a trend in of just more, efficient growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really expensive to hire a bunch of salespeople just to make cold calls all day.
Yep.
And so those two things answer it. It's connecting signals to action, but then also having more of a lean team that's doing more with less.
Cool. Okay. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah. So gtmba.ai is, or if you just Google GTMBA, we're on Beehive. So our newsletter, we host events in SF in New York. Find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. Always down to jam out on all things go-to-market, startups, AI.
Cool. And just send you a DM in LinkedIn and get a coffee.
Send in the DMs. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So thanks for joining us on Knocking to 10. Once again, I'm Johnny Loretto from Knock2. And if you're interested in seeing who's visiting your website, check out knock2.ai and turn your website visitors into pipeline. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Cool. Thanks, John.